Hey there, and welcome to my continuing coverage of the 30th anniversary of The Shadow. I'm a big fan, and as you can see, I have all these magazine covers behind this, the main event here. This is the press kit for The Shadow from 1994. As you can see, a film made by Universal Studios. This is what was sent out, to all the different newspapers and magazines as they were preparing to do their coverage of The Shadow. And I wanted to share this here because there is just some fantastic information inside. So as we look here, this production information will give you basically kind of a behind the scenes of how this all came together, who's in it. There's a guy named Martin Bregman who was working on this movie going back to the 80s, trying to find a way to get a Shadow film that was right, that he felt was going to hit it just out of the park. Unfortunately, it did not. But David Koepp, as you can see, there's the one who wrote it, and he was actually the guy who wrote Jurassic Park and so many other things here. So this is just like a full detail of all the different people involved, and then kind of some behind the scenes stories and like explanations by like production designer, talks about there's all these pneumatic tubes all over New York City that he set up. Then you learn about the different members of the cast, okay? John Lone and Alec Baldwin on this page. You're playing Shiwan Khan and Lamont Cranston in the film. But as you can see, Penelope Ann Miller as Margot Lane, Tim Curry as Farley Claymore, Peter Boyle as Mo Shrevnitz, Jonathan Winters as the Shadow's uncle, unknowingly, and Ian McKellen. Yes, you didn't know Ian McKellen was in this movie? He's Reinhardt Lane. That's not how he says it. So that's how Shiwan Khan hypnotizes him. But directed by Russell Mulcahy, who was the one who created the Highlander film, right? He was most known for. But yeah, so this is just really cool for someone like me that wants to understand, like, what is the real, pedigree of the people who made this film. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Jerry Goldsmith does the score, which I absolutely love, but Bob Ringwood did the costumes, and as you can see, Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns. I mean, this had some star power behind it in terms of the people producing the film. Unfortunately, it did not connect the final product. Now, this is more details about the cast and crew here. So this is kind of like more of the credits, basically, is what you're seeing here. Then you have the Mongol warriors, okay, which are great. They definitely fill out some of the action scenes. Kind of funny. But yeah, so this is, just basic credits in case you needed to find out, who was involved, and then cite that in your article. Now, we have some photos here, which are really cool. So these black and white stills of Alec Baldwin as Lamont Cranston try to give everybody an idea of who these characters are, what they're all about. So there's Margot and Lamont giving a classic 30s romantic gaze. But there you go. Jonathan Winters as Wainwright Barth, Tim Curry in the middle as Farley Claymore, and then we have Reinhardt Lane himself, Ian McKellen, working on his bomb device. There's some more Penelope Ann Miller, who just, doesn't she look like she stepped out of a 30s film, even the 20s? Like, she just looks amazing in this movie. They really did a number with the makeup and the outfits. But yeah, there is our guy. There is our hero. So when the Shadow is hypnotizing people, clouding their minds, if you will, he kind of bends back and everything else goes dark except his eyes. And then you can see there's a glint in his eyes here in costume. They would actually put reflective contact lenses in his eyes to give that appearance that he was otherworldly. But here you go. So here's the director, Russell Mulcahy, and then there's Martin Bregman and his son, who are working on the film together, finally realizing their dream. All right, there's John Lone as Shiwan Khan, last descendant of Genghis Khan. And here he is holding the furba. It is a dagger that is alive, yes, and you have to master the furba. I don't know if they give the furba its due in these stills, but there is Lamont Cranston with his shadow agent ring. There's Peter Boyle getting the newest recruit, Dr. Roy Tam, up to speed about what the Shadow will do when he calls upon you. All right, so there is Lamont Cranston with Wainwright Barth at the Cobalt Club. Now, this is my most hotly debated moment of the film. This is the first shot we get of the Shadow, and it's so disappointing to me given how awesome he looks when his cape is out. And here it's just a weird angle. He looks really strange. His head looks giant because he's got all the prosthetics on his nose. He's got a weak little body. I don't know. It always upset me that that's how they introduced our hero. But here we go also with Farley Claymore harassing Reinhardt Lane, but then getting harassed himself by Shiwan Khan. So yeah, this is just, it's a great, great movie. There's so many classic elements to it that call back to old Hollywood, that call back to, you know, the classic films of that era when the Shadow was actually being brought to life in pulp magazines and on the radio. Speaking of which, so this is a whole history by a guy named David Shute about the Shadow. And I have been studying the Shadow for many years. I've been a fan since the movie and a little bit before. That's why I was anticipating it. But there is so much information here about like the history of the character in the pulp novels, on the radio, what was changed, the movies that were made. Yes, there were movies that were made in the 30s, in the 40s, which is kind of crazy. They had these Shadow serials that they did. But even just like learning, like, when did he reveal his secrets for how he got his powers, you know, and his abilities? Like, they actually say which episodes that appeared in. Like, it's really awesome. In particular, though, I thought this was something most people don't know, is that Batman was a combination of the Shadow and Zorro when Bob Kane decided to create Batman. And he says here, long before the Dark Knight, there was the Night of Darkness, as the Shadow was often called in his pulp and radio salad days. So there you go. Even in the old days, you had that turn of phrase in such a way, and that was what they had decided to go with, to call Batman the Dark Knight, kind of in homage to that. Now, the last thing here, this is really neat. This is a collection of slides. So these are slides that you get, I guess you could produce your own photos for use, you know, I guess whatever the use might be for printing in your magazine, but maybe, I don't know, you're going to blow them up and make posters? Are you going to do a publicity event? That's what I would do with these, especially that shot of the Shadow right there. I love that. So these are just really neat pieces of history. There is one more special press kit type item, and it was a hardbound, hardcover book that was just filled with pictures from the film, really glossy, nice pages. It's a little pricey, so I have not pulled the trigger on that yet, but maybe one of these days I'll grab it. But either way, thank you so much for joining me here to check out my exploration of the Shadow press kit, and make sure that you check out my social media at Hoju Coolander to see all the other ways that I am celebrating the Shadow this week. Thank you so much for checking it out, and until next time...